So today we're going to talk about some safety precautions in regards to fasting, as well as how to fast effectively. So people that shouldn't be fasting is anyone that's under 18, so generally still growing, so it's not ideal to fast. If you're malnourished or if you're underweight, fasting may not be a good idea. Or of course, if you're breastfeeding or if you're pregnant, it's not going to be ideal to fast. You need to be careful. So it doesn't mean that you can't fast or can't do intermittent fasting. But you need to be careful if you have a history of eating disorders. If you take medications, that's something that you'd probably want to clear with your doctor to see that, some medications need to be taken with food. So you'd need to, just be on the safe side and check that that's going to be okay with intermittent fasting. Definitely if you've got diabetes or blood sugar regulation issues, I would definitely check it with your doctor. It's not to say that intermittent fasting, can't be done. Sometimes it could be quite effective and help with that sort of condition, but you've got to be a little bit careful. So it's worth speaking to your doctor. If you have low thyroid function, so that's going to affect your metabolism, and fasting can potentially throw that delicate balance of hormones out. So you need to be very cautious. Again, not saying that you can't do it. Same with adrenal issues. So if you've had like chronic stress where you've had high levels of stress for a very long time, and you have dysregulation with your stress hormones, again, not saying that you can't do it, but you have to be a bit cautious. You might want to get advice from your doctor or naturopath or whoever it is that you see for those issues, and definitely start very gently. I wouldn't go too aggressively into it. I would start as a gradual thing, and then perhaps build up how long you do the fasts for. Now, the number one rule when it comes to fasting is if you feel unwell for any reason whatsoever, simply break your fast and just have something to eat. Okay, it's a really simple rule. Don't push through. You want to listen to your body. So if you feel like symptoms of low blood sugar, where maybe you just can't think properly, brain's not working, or you feel a bit lightheaded or dizzy or anything like that relating to blood sugar issues, then I would certainly say it may be time just to have something to eat. And sometimes it may be different on different days. So you might be okay, no problems fasting on one day, and then another day, I know myself, sometimes I do have those symptoms and I listen to my body and I'll break my fast. Don't be too rigid with your fasting window. Be sure to drink lots of water in your fasting window. I quite often, I'll have like a litre bottle of water, and my aim is to drink that whole litre before I eat. And it's a good way of ensuring that I get lots of water in. It also helps with hunger pangs. So if you start to feel a little bit hungry, often if I have a few sips of water, I find personally that that will put something in my tummy, and it just stops me from getting hungry, and it's a lot easier to continue on with the fast. Be sure to eat nutrient-dense food in your eating window. So we want to make sure, obviously, when we're intermittent fasting, you're generally going to be skipping a meal. Sometimes people will still have the same amount of meals but compress it into a smaller window. But if you are skipping a meal and just having maybe 2 meals or something with a snack in between or something like that, which is fine to do, you do need to make sure that you are eating nutrient-dense foods when you do eat, because there is a requirement for the body to get the nutrients that we need. So even though you will be reducing calories if you're skipping a meal, we need to make sure that the foods that we eat have a lot of nutrition. So if we're eating less calories, they're more nutrient dense, so that we're still able to get the nutrients that our bodies need. be flexible with your plan. Things like poor sleep, if you have a lot of stress, something personal is going on, or for whatever reason, sometimes that might not be the best day to do a fast, because it can affect your blood sugar levels. So try not to be too rigid with your plan, be flexible and listen to your body. Maybe even if you go away on holidays, or just if you're out of routine, something's happening that's not normal for you, it may be actually easier to do intermittent fasting in those circumstances. Like if you're traveling on a plane and you don't want to eat plane food because it's all crap, you might just fast in that period, and that's not a problem either. So yeah, just be flexible with the plan based on what you have going on in your life. And finally, some tips. If you feel hungry, as I mentioned before, drink water. That's a real, just plain water, nothing in it. That's a really good way of just nullifying those hunger signals. Time your fasting window when you're occupied, not stressed and busy and under the pump. But if you're occupied and you've got lots of things to do, if you're cleaning the house, or if you're at work and you've got things that are occupying your mind, that can be a much easier way of not thinking about food when you're in that fasting window. It just makes it simpler. Another great tip is to eat a very small protein, fat-rich snack 20 minutes prior to your first meal. So one of the pitfalls that some people can get into, and I've definitely been there myself, is eating too much in that first meal. Especially, I find personally, if I fast for too long, then I get really, really hungry. So if you have, maybe a handful of nuts or something like that, 20 minutes before your first meal, it will just help to blunt those really intense hunger feelings, so that you don't over-consume once you start eating. And be sure in that actual first main meal to have a good protein source. That's really important. That again helps with satiety, with muscle, preserving muscle, because we always want to preserve muscle. And don't limit your calories in your eating window. So we don't want to be trying to really drastically cut our calories, but then also on that same point, we don't want to overeat either. So you've got to really find that sweet spot, that fine balance where you are consuming less calories than what you need for your daily activities, and then you're going to be actually burning fat. But also, you don't want to go too far, otherwise you'll slow and damage your metabolism. Because your body will try and conserve energy, because it'll feel like it's in a stressed state. But then obviously we don't want to overeat either, because that sort of defeats the purpose of trying to have a bit of a calorie deficit we're burning into our fat stores.